This is episode 219, my favorite music for getting in the zone.
Welcome to the Paul Miners Podcast, the show that will help you to optimize your time, income, and lifestyle fast. Get more done with actionable, easy-to-follow advice and learn how to live life on your terms. And now, introducing your host, Paul Miners.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Paul Miners Podcast, to episode number 219. As always, I want to start by just saying thank you for tuning in today. I know how valuable your time is, and so I really do appreciate you taking a little bit of time to listen to this episode. And an extra thank you to everyone that reached out to me last week with special well wishes for my birthday. Yeah, I really appreciate the kind words and the support, so thank you for those of you who got in touch. Now today, I'm talking about music. I actually had quite a lot of fun writing the blog post for this episode, and I've got a lot of links to share to different playlists and curators and things, so definitely check out the blog post for this episode, which you will find at paulminers.com/219. If you're into music, or if you're looking for some inspiration for things to listen to while you work, definitely go and check out some of the links to the things I'm going to be talking about today. So let's get into it. There's nothing quite like that feeling of being in the zone. You know, that place of flow and focus where, you do your best work. And if you've watched the Pixar movie Soul that came out, was it earlier this year or end of last year? I can't remember. It shows the zone as this generally joyful place, and you'll have to watch the movie to find out more about that, but generally it's a joyful place between the conscious and unconscious world where you find yourself when you're completely focused on your craft or your work. And one of the ways that I'm able to find this focus and enter the zone is by listening to music. When you've got a good pair of headphones and the right music, it's amazing how much more focused you can be. You can block out all those external factors and disturbances and really focus on what you're doing. And so with that in mind, I'm going to share some music that I listen to when doing my work. And most of the music I listen to is instrumental. I find that if I listen to songs with lyrics, it can be a bit harder to concentrate when you have another voice in your head. So generally I listen to instrumental, often electronic music, and I use often quite calming, relaxing, sort of slower music. And I use Apple Music as my player of choice, but in the show notes for this episode, I've included links to Spotify the Spotify links, as well as Apple Music. So definitely go and check those out. And it was hard putting this together. Obviously, I wanted to include samples of some of this music. And I did a quick bit of research and thought, am I allowed to just play small snippets of each of these tracks and albums and things as an example? And while I probably could and probably wouldn't get in trouble, I don't want to take the risk, and so I don't want to breach any copyright laws. So unfortunately, I have not included any samples of the music. You do have to get permission, especially because this episode does have a sponsor as well. So take my word for it, and I suppose I will say I'm a little bit dense when it comes to music, so I'll do my best to describe the music as best I can, and I know that's probably not the most awe-inspiring and confident thing to hear right before I give you a list of music recommendations, that I'm really dense, but I know what I like to listen to, and I think if you check out some of these things, you might agree with me. So, without any further ado, and with that boost of confidence, let's get into some of my favorite music. So I want to start by talking about some of the lo-fi curators that I follow. And this is probably my favorite music to listen to while working, is chilled lo-fi, in other words, low fidelity music. I find this type of music very calming, and it fits perfectly into the background while I work. And so in particular, I really enjoy these playlists curated by Chill Hop and Lo-Fi Girl. Lo-Fi Girl, formerly known as Chilled Cow. Completely weird names, I know, but Chill Hop and Lo-Fi Girl. Now, you can listen to either of these curators as a 24/7 YouTube stream, which is really interesting. My brother actually introduced me to this. And each of them have a number of playlists available across various platforms as well. Now, what's funny with these streams, and the Lo-Fi Girl stream in particular, it shows this anime girl. She's sitting by a window on her desk. She's reading a book and studying. And I don't know what it is, but when you have this stream on, you can put it on a second display. You have this calming sort of lo-fi hip-hop music in the background, and you're watching her study while you're doing your work. And she's just kind of in the background moving very subtly every now and then. And it just boosts your motivation. There's kind of this person next to you. It's kind of like that feeling of like there's someone next to me studying, and so I want to be working as well. So Lo-Fi Girl has actually developed a very passionate follower base, and a lot of students now really like to stream the Lo-Fi Girl channel while they read or study, essentially mimicking what the girl in the stream is doing. So it's kind of one of these things you have to sort of see to understand. So definitely go check out Lo-Fi Girl. Check out Chill Hop as well. It's this kind of footage of this cartoon raccoon on his bed or walking along, and it's just kind of very, very chilled, relaxing music. I actually prefer the music of Chill Hop, but often rotate between them. And as well as studying and work music, each of them has some really nice sleep playlists as well. So definitely go check out their playlist on Apple Music, Spotify, or their 24/7 streams on YouTube as well. So next, I want to list some soundtracks that I listen to. Sometimes, and it's kind of if the mood calls really, I don't listen to a ton of soundtracks, but sometimes a movie soundtrack will call out to me. And a few that I really like, in particular the Social Network soundtrack. And if you've seen the movie, it tells the story of Mark Zuckerberg building Facebook in his college dorm room. And when I put on the album, I can't help but feel motivated to work, because you're sort of like, yeah, I'm channeling that energy of the movie of like building something on my computer. So I really like that soundtrack. Similarly, Soul, actually, that I mentioned at the start. And as well as containing a few really nice jazz songs, I love the slow, melodic songs in the album, especially when it gets into like the Great Before and into the zone, depicting the zone as mentioned above. Just some kind of nice, peaceful music. And interestingly, this soundtrack and the Social Network soundtrack that I mentioned are both scored by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. So, yeah, very good composers. Another soundtrack that I really like is the Lord of the Rings Symphony, the Symphony Orchestra. It might just be because I'm a fan of the movies, but I really enjoy the sort of journey that you go through when you listen to these long 10 to 30 minutes. Some of these tracks are like 30 minutes. And the album really helps you to get into the zone, especially on like a big project or a big piece of work. The music really is kind of a journey that you go through. This episode of the Paul Miners podcast is sponsored by Outfunnel. Outfunnel allows you to connect data from all your marketing apps deeply and easily. So if you use a sales CRM like Pipedrive or HubSpot, Outfunnel can seamlessly sync your contacts to an email service like MailChimp or ActiveCampaign. And it keeps your two databases in sync. And then, once you've sent an email campaign, Outfunnel syncs the engagement data like clicks, opens, and unsubscribes back to your CRM. It even supports lead scoring, so the more a user engages with your content, the higher their lead score. This means that you and your sales team can focus on following up with the most engaged leads and close more sales. Outfunnel is the most boring marketing tool on the planet because you need to only set it up once and it just works. It's the tool that I recommend the most to my Pipedrive clients and is the #1 top-ranked app on the Pipedrive marketplace. To get started, you can sign up at outfunnel.com/Paul. That's outfunnel.com/Paul. And sign up before August 30th to get 25% off your first 3 months. And thank you to Outfunnel for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. And finally, another soundtrack I really like is the Avatar soundtrack. I really enjoy the kind of alien sounds, and some of the tracks are really uplifting as well. Again, big fan of the movie, and the soundtrack is great for taking you out of your environment and just kind of transporting you to another world and really putting you in that zone while you work. So those are some of the soundtracks that I really like. I also have some favorite albums and artists that I would recommend. I'm a sucker for those kind of synthy electronic music sounds, and so a few artists I really like are Petite Biscuit. This is sort of very dreamy electronic music by a French DJ, and chances are you've probably heard his most popular song, Sunset Lover, but all his albums are really great. It's well worth listening to. Another one I really like is Slow Magic, and I can definitely recommend the album How to Run Away. Nice album. Tycho, a few people I know really enjoy listening to Tycho while they work, and this is a San Francisco-based producer, Scott Hansen. He creates very dreamy tracks, perfect for working or relaxing to. Hermitude is an Australian electronic duo. The music's a bit more upbeat, but still really nice to work to. And the final one is Tim Hecker. He's a Montreal-based producer, creates some really interesting ambient tracks, very just ambient tracks, that my wife would describe as just noise. And it is a bit weird when you listen to it. A lot of it is just noise, but it's this weird ambient music that I find just really helps me to focus and gets me into that zone. So I've got links to the Apple Music and Spotify artist pages for all of those artists there. And a few final sources of music that I really like, specifically on Apple Music. They have some really good playlists that they update regularly. I think once a week, with some of their curated playlists, they will update them. So it's quite nice because you get fresh stuff every week. I can listen to the same playlist, but it's got new stuff on it, which is quite cool. And so some that I really like, there's one called Pure Ambient, just kind of ambient music. One called Pure Focus, which, as the name suggests, great for focus. One that I really like is called Tune Out Your Boss, and another one, Living in the Library. So I've got links to all of these. I think what you're going to have to do with this episode is go to the show notes, bookmark it or save it, and just slowly work through some of these suggestions, I think. And the final suggestion I wanted to give here is the Headspace app. I recently started using this. There's a focus section of the app. Besides using it for meditation or sleep music, you can use the focus section to do a focus meditation, or they have focus music as well. And these are playlists curated by different artists, and I started listening to it on the Mac. There is no Headspace app for the Mac, but because the Mac now supports iPhone apps, I've downloaded the Headspace app, and I've just in the last couple of weeks started listening to a few of those playlists and have found them very enjoyable. So that is my list of music that I like to listen to while I work. And as you can probably tell, I do have a particular sound and style of music that I like to listen to while working. And the suggestions here aren't for everyone. But if you want to check out anything here, like I said, I think you need to go and bookmark this post, make your way through that list if you're interested. And if you have any of your own favorite playlists or artists to share, I'd love to hear them, so please head on over to the show notes, paulminers.com/219, and please share your recommendations with me there. One more time, thank you very much for listening, and I will catch you next time on the Paul Miners Podcast. Thank you for listening to the Paul Miners Podcast. Two quick things before I sign off. Firstly, if you enjoyed this episode or if you have any feedback for me, I would love it if you could leave me a review on iTunes. It really helps me to improve the show, and it helps the show to get discovered by more people so I can help more people out there. The second thing is, if you want to connect with me in person, you can become a VIP member of my website. Head to paulminers.com/VIP, where you will be able to join my private Slack community and attend bi-weekly group mastermind calls. This has to be one of my favorite times of the week when it comes up, is attending these group calls. The community is full of like-minded, productive, self-employed people, full-time workers. We have a real good mix of people in there, and I have to say I have made fantastic friends with the people in this group. So if you want to join the community and connect with me and the other awesome members, sign up at paulminers.com/VIP. One more time, thank you very much for listening, and I will catch you next time on the Paul Miners Podcast.